everyone. This is Animezingly Baka, the amazingly stupid podcast all about anime and movies and TV shows and manga and comics and books and music and so much more. Sans video games, of course. And of course, I am your host, Marcus Nez. Hi, how are y'all doing? Hopefully well. If you are partaking in Super Bowl festivities this weekend, as I'm recording this, the Super Bowl is happening. I am not watching it because I have not cared about football in a very long time. I'm a Bears fan. I was a Bears fan, but the way they run their organization, I'm just kind of sick of them. So it's been kind of not fun to care about football. Still love the sport. One of my favorite sports just in general. But not so much to watch anymore. Hooray! Excited. Anywho, so last week's episode was a really rough one for me. I hated recording it as I was recording it because, as I think I talked about near the end of that episode with One Piece and catching up with that, I was also just using that entire week as a catch-up week and trying to get all my ducks in a row. I was exhausted. My brain was fried and I could not remember anything. So I felt really bad when I finished that episode, but I had no time to re-record it. And even if you try re-recording an episode, if you are someone who podcasts or has tried podcasting, you know that even if things don't go exactly as planned in your initial recording, the magic, whatever magic is there, is going to be gone on any additional recordings. One of the issues with me too, which is just how my brain works, and I'm not sure if anyone else can relate, is that I am kind of preparing. Preparation is not the right word to use, even if we include an H there, because before recording any kind of show, I'm thinking about it in my head and how I'm going to talk about this or that on the show. And in a way, I kind of pre-record a podcast before I even attempt the first recording. And oftentimes, I'll think to myself, man, I wasted all my good material in my head. I was podcasting in my head. I'll be laying in bed trying to sleep, and then I'm recording a podcast for 20 minutes. I'm like, well, this is why I can't sleep, because my mind can't turn off. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I've been doing that for years and years and years. Maybe I should see someone about it. I'm not going to, though. But yeah, I was surprised by the traction last week's episode had. And I even got a few comments, which worried me when I saw that there were new comments on that particular episode. I'm like, oh God, they're going to be so mean, because people can be often mean. And that's one of the things that also just confuses me, because even if I watch a channel that I am unfamiliar with and I'm not really liking it, I don't take the time to write a comment about how awful I think they are. I also don't think they're awful. I'm just like, oh, this isn't for me. I don't think, oh, you fucking suck. What are you fucking doing? You shouldn't be doing this. Get off of here. I can't believe. I'm like, no, this is something that is not for me, but other people like it. So I'll let them like it, and I will go find something that I like. I don't need to revel in my dislike or for anything. Of course, I will dislike things that I'm watching, consuming. If I'm playing a game and I'm not liking it, I will talk about how I don't like it. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it, because then I won't have content. Because if I play a bunch of things I don't like, and what am I going to do? It's like, oh, the podcast this week is nothing, because I didn't like any things I played, and I don't want to talk about how I didn't like them. So moving on. But with a podcast, a video series, any kind of content on YouTube, I don't see the point in commenting unless I have some kind of constructive criticism. And that's with something that I also would kind of like, where I just think, oh, you know what? maybe this or that. But even then, I'm not really commenting. So I don't understand the mentality about someone who is just like, hey, you fucking suck. And It's like, what? Why? And to that point, too, if someone has a difference of opinions with you, they're called opinions. It's okay. They're not saying you're wrong to have your opinion, and they're not wrong to have their opinion. You just have different opinions. It's okay. It's okay for someone to not like something you like, and vice versa. It's fine. It's fine. It's cool. We're all happy. We have our tastes. We have our tastes. Some people like pineapple on pizza. Some don't. I'm not a pineapple on pizza person, but I'm cool with anyone who does like it. I just don't really like pineapple in general. If you put banana on a pizza, I'd probably fucking love it. Let's do that. I'll try pineapple banana apple on a pizza. Anywho, got plenty of anime to talk about, the usual seasonal stuff I'm watching, and I'm feeling good about this episode. It could go awry very quickly, but I'm feeling pretty good about what I have to say, and I feel like I've recalled more than before. But before I get to the anime, I also finally got to Rising Impact, which is the Netflix golf anime that I thought was more popular than it is, because on AniList I saw, it's the number 24th ranked show of 2024. That's huge. That's a big deal. And then I realized, it's actually the number 24 ONA of 2024, which, if you don't know what ONA is, original net animation, which means it was just for the web, for streaming, as opposed to being on traditional TV type of show. So I watched that as well, first season and a few episodes. But before that, I don't think there are any kind of movies or jazz that I watched. I'm looking through my list, anything of note, really. I did check out The Glassworker, which I believe is notable for being the first Pakistani traditional animated movie. Yeah. And it's rough. It has the look in terms of the art, but the animation is subpar. There are a lot of parts where it feels like it's a frame every few seconds. It can get a little rough in that sense. The characters don't emote all that much. The English voice acting, at the very least, which is what I heard, and I believe the physical releases it's gotten are all English only. Maybe not, because Vinegar Syndrome, one of the partner labels, put it out, and then it got a 4K release from I don't know who in the UK. But the English performances are all very, very lifeless. They take away a lot from the story, and then the writing, the script is pretty weak as well. So in many ways, it feels like a first draft, a decent first draft. I would be willing to see what the studio put out next if they get a chance to put out another movie. But as a debut film, it's pretty rough. And then outside of that, I don't know if there's anything particularly of note. Just watching a whole bunch of stuff, continuing to chip away at what I have left in the foreign language space. I have, I think, 178 movies left before it's all over and done with, which is exciting, but also still exhausting. I did watch the Pusher movies, which were really disappointing. They're the debut trilogy, though he made movies in between them, but I think the first one was his first movie, but it's the big trilogy from early in his career of Nicholas Winding Refn, however you pronounce his name, the director of Drive, most notably, that is, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I was excited to finally watch this. I had purchase multiple copies of the trilogy. So I had originally purchased, because I think the trilogy first became available on Blu-ray through an Australian label. And then last year, I think Second Sight put out the trilogy in both Blu-ray or on Blu-ray and 4K. So I picked up both of those. And I did that before watching my Australian releases, because I just figured to myself, I love Drive. I really liked Valhalla Rising. I didn't love Bronson, but I love and I like Only God Forgives enough, even though it's a huge letdown from the incredible trailer that movie got. So I just figured it's a slam dunk. The first two have Mads Mikkelsen in them, and it's directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. How could I go wrong? Well, they're just incredibly misogynistic, terrible. They're just so unpleasant. Some of the most unpleasant movies I've watched, and it's just like, oh, I don't like being around these characters. The first one is just really unpleasant, and then the following are less unpleasant, but still a little unpleasant and way more boring. The third one is incredibly boring. So that happened as well. That's probably the most notable thing that I watched movie-wise. I think there was maybe something else here that I saw that I was like, oh, that could be interesting to talk about. Not really. I watched Peter Hujar's, I forgot how you pronounce his name, Peter Hujar's Day, upon a recommendation or a suggestion. I don't know if I would go so far as to say he recommended it, but I found it very, very boring. Like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to spend an entire lifetime with this character because I don't like him. And then I also realized, let me look, did I talk about it? No, I didn't. Did I watch it after? When did I watch it? Wonder Man. I didn't talk about Wonder Man, and I fucking loved Wonder Man. It is my second favorite MCU show, just behind She-Hulk, which is and always will be the best MCU show. That also can help you understand or get a feel for where my tastes align, because obviously there are a lot of haters for that show, but I absolutely loved it. And I went into She-Hulk not expecting much and kind of expecting myself to hate it, but I fell in love with that show. I adore it so much. And I think the way it does its fourth wall breaking stuff near the end works incredibly well. That is the kind of stuff that can easily rub me the wrong way, but they pulled it off beautifully. But Wonder Man, I was actually very excited for. When they had that sizzle reel over a year ago, I think at this point, that showed a whole bunch of stuff like Wonder Man, but also that Spider-Man animated show and a whole bunch of things. They probably showed more of What If and so on and so forth. Wonder Man is what stood out to me as something I thought I would really like. And I've been excited for it ever since. Having now watched it, it came out, a few weeks ago. They put it out all at once, as opposed to doing it week to week like they typically do. I just loved it. I love the shows that aren't or don't feel the need to tie into the grand MCU picture and the big story. They can just stand on their own and be smaller scale stories. Because Wonder Man, in many ways, is more of a show about acting and the whole process of acting and the industry, going through auditions, all of that stuff, being on set, having ideas for rewrites and so on and so forth, than it is about superhero stuff. And his powers and all of that is more of a visual representation of his mental internal struggles than they are a means for him to take down bad guys. There are no big boss fights of any kind in this show. There could be in a sequel, a second season. If we get that, I'm not sure what the numbers have been. I hope it's done well. I know it was critically well received, but I had a great time with that. I really like the main actor. I think it's so crazy to think about how much Trevor from Iron Man 3 has endured and lasted as a character. I don't think after that movie came out, anyone would have thought, you know who's going to last in the MCU? Ben Kingsley's Trevor, the fake Mandarin. But he's stuck around. He was in that. He was in Shang-Chi. I think he was in something else. And now he has a significant role. This is by far his most significant role in anything MCU related, because he is the co-star, you would say. But it's a very, very, very good show. It feels fresh and original in what is so much of the MCU just feels very by the numbers, and this feels different, and I love that about it. And again, I hope it does very well, because I think it is fantastic, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's maybe curious, because it is only 8 episodes, and the longest episode is probably 36 minutes, and that is with 5.5, I think, ish minutes allotted for the credits. And then after the first episode, they have about a minute for the recap and intro. So episodes are short. The shortest episode, when you factor all that out, maybe like 24 minutes. So it won't take too much of your time to give it a shot. And you don't have to watch the whole thing, but give it a few episodes and see where you feel. Wonder Man, it's great. And if you're curious what my third series would be, it'd be Loki. Loki season 1 would have a chance to be my number 2, but season 2 was a pretty big dip. I still enjoyed it enough, but compared to the first season, it was a disappointment. And when I take the series as a whole, it goes under Wonder Man. All right, let us get down to me. Why don't we? So we've been blah, 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 around enough. All right, so let us get to my list of shows. Maybe I'll start with Rising Impact. So Rising Impact is a golf anime that is on Netflix. Got 2 seasons. First season, I think, is 12 episodes, and then the second season is 14. Like I said earlier, I have watched the first season and 2 episodes of the second season. The story follows this young boy. We are first introduced to him as a 3rd grader, I think, and he's now a 4th grader, Gawain, who is obsessed with hitting balls far. So he, at first, when we meet him, is really into baseball, because he thinks of baseball and home runs as the sport where you can hit balls the farthest. But then he meets this young woman who he doesn't know at the time is a professional golfer. And she shows him the power of golf and drivers and how far you can hit a golf ball with a driver, which gets him to transition from being a baseball. I'm not going to say he's a baseball fan, but it makes him go from wanting to become a baseball player to becoming a golfer. Because at first he's just thinking, okay, well, this is a sport where you're just using the driver and you're just trying to hit as far as you can. That's the whole point. Of course, as the series goes on, he starts to learn more about the whole system of golf, that it's more than just driving. There is your approach shots, putting, all that jazz. And it's about getting the ball in the hole in a certain number of strokes to get a good score. So it follows him as he's making his journey, learning golf, becoming better at it, and becoming better at not just driving the ball. The thing about him is that he is this 3rd grader, then 4th grader, who can drive the ball 300 yards. And I feel like people don't act as surprised by that. But then you have these other kids who I think the oldest in these classes. He eventually goes to a school. He goes to this academy for golf potential prodigies, called Camelot Academy, this is the really weird thing about the show. I don't understand what all the fucking King Arthur shit is about. I don't know why it's there. It's really weird. You've got Camelot Academy. He meets this young player who is incredibly skilled. And as the show is going on, he seems broken as a player in that it doesn't seem like he has any faults and that he should just be able to destroy everyone and never get less than a birdie on a hole. But you have Lancelot. Then you have the president or principal of the school of the Japanese Academy, because the Camelot Academy, it has 3 branches, one in the UK, one in the US, and one in Japan. The president principal of the Japanese Academy is Merlin. Then they have the 12 golf clubs of the round table or some shit. I don't understand what all this King Arthur shit is doing in here. It doesn't seem to have any kind of theming. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know why Gawain is not just fucking Arthur. He's obviously he's not a native Japanese either. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But with Lancelot too, and this is something I found fascinating, and it makes you appreciate or just understand the differences that come with English dubs versus the original Japanese dub, and how if you are, for instance, talking to someone who watches an anime in English and you are someone who watches it subbed, how different your takes on a show could be because of how different things are. Lancelot is a very feminine male character. He looks like a girl. He has very feminine features. He looks more girlish than some of the actual girl characters. His lips are always pink and kind of look like they've got lip gloss on them. So they're really playing up his feminine features. And in the Japanese dub, he's voiced by a woman. Whereas in the English dub, because I watched one episode in English just out of curiosity, and then I rewatched it in Japanese to see the differences. And it was a good episode to watch. So I think it was the 9th episode of the first season. In English, Lancelot has more of this kind of posh British voice. Whereas in the Japanese dub, he does sound more feminine. Like, not just because he's voiced by a woman, but they're playing up that he has a softer voice. It's kind of a emotionless voice because he is that way where he's just kind of oblivious to the feelings of others. But at one point, and they, in the English dub too, they kind of make him come across more like an asshole. Whereas in the Japanese dub, he just comes across as someone who doesn't quite get it, or again, is kind of oblivious. For instance, there's one point where a character at the academy, because Lancelot's not going to the academy at the start. He joins at the end of the first season. He joins at the end of the first season, not the beginning of season 2. But at one point, a kid who's also very good, one of the best at the academy, talking about how he's won all these tournaments. In the Japanese dub, he says something along the lines of, I think it's like, it's a good thing I haven't been playing because it's allowed you to win. Something along those lines. And then in the English dub, the way he words it, his tone and the cadence of his speech, it's something like, the only reason why you were able to keep winning is because I wasn't playing. And he comes across like such a snobby bastard. And I'm like, I don't really like this. But back to my original point of how things differ. And it's just, this is weird. And it's like, what? Are you so uncomfortable with the idea of a feminine male character. Can male characters not be feminine if they are presumably heterosexual? I don't know what Lancelot's thing is. It's not important to his character or anything. But in the English dub, in the Japanese dub, there is a scene where two of the characters at the academy, because they don't know Lancelot yet, he has come to visit Gawain along with the young professional golfer who introduced him to golf, Kira, and her little sister, who is the fucking worst character, Kurumi. I hate her. She's so annoying because immediately when she sees Gawain, she's like, oh, this is my new brother-in-law, even though he's a fucking fourth grader. And she's constantly calling him brother-in-law, and she's obsessed with Lancelot. She's just the worst kind of character. Fucking kick her in the face like she's Ike from in South Park. Kick that baby. And she's not a baby, but kick her in the face. Punt her across the continent and get her out of this show. But these two characters who don't know Lancelot yet are like, oh my God, who's that girl talking to one of the other students here? She's so beautiful. And they're referring to Lancelot. And Gawain's like, that's not a girl. That's Lancelot. That's my friend. He's a dude. But in the English dub, the way they reworked that scene is the character's like, who's that boy talking to whatever girl? He looks like such a loser. So it is localized, translated to, instead of being, who's that girl? She's so beautiful, to who's that boy? He looks like such a loser. So we went from a beautiful girl to a loser boy. And those kind of changes show you how different an English dub can be from the original Japanese dub, which is really interesting. And to that point, I didn't rewatch it yet. I'm getting things prepared to start my big Ghibli rewatch. In looking at the differences between the English and Japanese for Porco Rosso, there are plenty of moments, at least in what I looked, the little chunk I was looking at, in Porco Rosso where the English dub just adds things in that aren't there. The Japanese dub is willing and understands the value of silence, where characters are just being silent, not talking to each other. And it's from a camera angle where you're not seeing any mouths flapping. So it's not like they are having characters move their mouth and nothing's coming out. It's an angle where you're not seeing characters noticeably speaking. But in the English dub, they just add additional shit. Because I guess having nothing there is like, oh my God, we can't do that. They need to be talking all the time. And you don't. So that's another example of the way in which an English dub can change the feel of a scene. And then I was looking at Ponyo as well, and they get more wordy there as well and add things that don't need to be there. It's just, for me, something that makes me appreciate Japanese dubs even more, which is my preference. There are cases where I do prefer the English Dragon Ball, specifically because I just can't deal with Goku's Japanese voice. Sounds like an old woman because he is voiced by an old woman. But in One Piece, for example, Luffy, also voiced by an old woman, sounds like such a lively young boy. I cannot say enough good things about Luffy's voice acting. I think she is so incredible with that voice. And that's another thing, thinking about One Piece, and it's what we have left. I'm not sure how old she is or other voice actors. And this is such a selfish thought to have, but I just want, it would be terrible if any of the, and I'm sure there have been some maybe for side characters. I don't think any of the main character actors have, but I feel like we've heard, maybe there was a recent one for someone passing away. Yeah, it was for Dragon Ball. I think it was for, oh God, Majin Buu, maybe. But it would be such a tragedy if, for instance, the voice actor, the actress for Luffy passed away before the show finished. both for our personal enjoyment of it and her work, but also to see it through to the end. To not see it through to the end in that case would be really, really sad. But that is just some interesting stuff when thinking about the differences. But the show Rising Impact in general, it's pretty okay. It's a very solid 6 out of 10 for me, and that's good. I don't know how many people do this. I kind of think that anime watchers actually do this more than anyone else, than movie watchers who use Letterboxd or video game players. I do get the feeling, and obviously it varies from person to person, but I kind of feel like overall, anime watchers are more willing or use the full scale more often than others. It's like 6 out of 10 if you're looking at, say, Game Informer for video games. I feel like that's a pretty low score because they're not exploring the full scale as often as others. But I utilize the entire scale. So for me, a 6 out of 10 is pretty solid. It's pretty solid. It's a solid, enjoyable show. And that's what this is. There are some characters who get really annoying. I hate the way any evil character you put on a show who's clearly the bad one has to have some weird shit going on with their tongue. This dude's like sticking his tongue up his nostril. I'm like, fucking, I can just tell a character is bad by their actions. He cheated. He broke these other players' clubs. Clearly not a good dude. He also locked Gawain in his basement at one time. Like, bad dude. I don't need him also sticking his tongue up his nose, almost lizard-like, because that's something you expect. Oh, they got a lizard tongue? Bad character. Bad person. But with the second episode too, the second season, Gawain meets the US team. He gets outdriven by this one kid who's using a 5-iron. He's like, oh my God, I'm so broken. He can't hit the ball anymore. He keeps topping it. And his struggle is resolved by the end of episode 2. And now he can hit the ball 400 yards. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? But Lancelot destroys some of the other US players in a ridiculous fashion at the start of episode or the start of season 2. That is where I think, man, why is he ever, how can anyone compete with him? He's perfect. He can just, not only is he just great at playing straight golf, but then he can do all these crazy things like hitting the golf ball in such a way that's going to create spin and do it so deeply that it creates like a fucking moat around the hole so that other characters are like, it doesn't make sense. And that's one of the aspects that I don't love. I'm sure there's probably a plain straight golf show that came out somewhere in the past. I think of something like Baby Steps for Tennis, which is a fantastic tennis show that has a slow build and slow struggles. It's not a character who's getting so much better so rapidly. But it's a solid show. It's a solid show. I'm enjoying it well enough. So yeah, that is a Rising Impact, available on Netflix. To the seasonals, let's see, where do I want to begin? My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, good episode. We got some juicy information that I probably should have been more. My reaction to the reveal was very, wait, do I know this character? Then it cuts to this other character. We seen this character in this season yet? All right, wait, well, why are they showing her? I thought these characters were out of the show. Wait, who was that guy just then? Is that, wait, goes on the list, looks at this character. Who is this? What's his name? Clicks his name and looks at the spoiler names. Oh my God, it is him. And then I reacted. So we learn here that the leader of the Vigilantes from the first season, aka Knuckle Duster, who I loved and I missed, he is the original O'Clock and also goes by now Hyper Quad Fist. I think why I didn't recognize him is because he had a beard and no mask as we know him. At least that's how I always picture him in my head, is with the mask. Because he did take it off a few times in the first season. But I just picture him with the mask because I liked him in his full get-up, his vigilante get-up. And here, we see him interrogating some dude. But when talking to another cop, I believe, he is talking about this other character who we know as, I don't think that anyone's called him O'Clock 2. That's who he is. He has the same powers. We learned, though, that, and I don't think we ever learned this in the first season, that Knuckle Duster, Agoru, he had powers. He was the original O'Clock, and they were taken away from him. I can't remember if they said exactly how, but he doesn't have his powers anymore, obviously, as we know. So now he goes around just using physical force, and I cannot wait to see that clash between him and O'Clock 2, because that is going to be fun. And he's giving him some tips, like, this is how you have to deal with this character, because this is what he does and how you have to handle him, because if you try and attack him this way with his ability, he's going to be able to just, counter you without any kind of issue. So that was a very fun reveal, even though it was kind of broken for me, where they showed him and he says, or the person he's interrogating is like, oh, you're hyper quad fist. And you see him, no mask, full beard. He has a scar, so that probably was the giveaway that I should have taken. But I see him and I'm thinking to myself, am I supposed to know who this is? Who is this? And then they cut to his daughter in the hospital. I'm like, why are they showing her? What is she doing here? What's going on? And then I think you might see the dude, quad fist, walking down the street as the crawler and all that is going by. And he's like, oh, did I see our master? Did anyone else see him? And he's walking by and it's just like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. But the first half of the episode starts off with the crawler going out on a, what do you call them? They're like a meetup. He's the other party to a band. They've invited him along to this little meetup, and Kazuo, aka Popstep, she is going undercover with Midnight to try and find out who is giving or distributing this drug, this new form of the drug, because they've had a lot of instances of it being at various types of parties of this nature. So they're going undercover to follow these two suspects, two young women, and see what's going on. So as everything is devolving, the older character, who seems she's like the one running it and seems to be having a great time. She's actually someone who's she's of an age where she's like, fucking, why can't I find a man? What is wrong with me? What the fuck? So she's very upset internally, but externally, she's just the belle of the ball. And I think she is about to fall when the crawler Koichi, he catches her, and then she immediately falls for him because, oh my God, he saved me, and so on and so forth. And then her other party, who was this kind of skittish, shy, quiet girl, becomes very angry with this because she is clearly very possessive of the other woman. So she runs off to the bathroom. She's the one with the drug. She dolls herself up, becomes way more open and not charismatic, but she's just way more out there now. What am I looking for? Not internal, external, but not those words. Why am I thinking of pessimist? I am an introvert. She becomes much more extroverted. That is the word I was looking for. Extrovert, external, they're close enough. But she spikes all the drinks. She's like, hey, you want a drink? Gee, He's like, I'm underage. I don't drink alcohol. Okay. Oh, well, do you want this nice tea? And then the other woman who is running the whole thing, she's like, oh, you don't like sweet drinks, do you? Like, yeah, I'm not really. Okay. Well, do you want this other thing? It's like, yeah, actually, I'm pretty good. And then she tries to force feed him the drink because clearly she's his target, but everyone else has already taken some of the drinks. And now their corks are going all crazy because they've been spiked by her. And that's when Midnight reveals herself. She's such a ridiculous character. I don't. What's her power? Her power is something like she has pheromones that only affect males or mostly affect males and just puts them to sleep. And I don't know why she has to then also expose herself so much. Okay, Midnight. Do you. But that was a fun opening. It was a fun episode. A nice episode of first half, this fun scene that provides you with some information about the drug and all that. And then transition to the second half being about this reveal and Oguro coming back into the story and all that, which I enjoyed. Good episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Then Golden Kamuy, really good episode. I think they're doing a great job of building up to the end of the series in general, which I'll counter with Fire Force when I get to that. But this is a very serious episode. It featured a lot of backstory about Asurpa's not mom, but her father, as well as, what is his name? The lieutenant. Where are you? And Lieutenant Tsurumi. We get a lot of their backstory in this episode, which is good. And then just a continuation of the events as they're happening. But also, it was a very, very serious episode. Sans one moment in the middle of it, I think, where you have Sugimoto and Chirashi. They are driving some kind of vehicle. I can't remember. I think there's a cat there that's just walking beside them and like, what? How do you get this thing to go faster? The cat's fucking walking faster than we're driving. What is going on? And at one point, I think halfway through the episode, they run into something, and then they both just like straight bullets. They've got their hands to their side, and they're just kind of perfectly straight like an arrow. They both fly out the window, and it's accompanied by like the most ridiculous boing sound effect or something. And it's just this weird, stark contrast from the rest of the episode that is very, very serious in tone as we're learning this backstory and then also seeing where the current state of events are playing out. So that was a little funny, but over a good episode. I'm just, as I'm watching this too, it really does make me want to go back and rewatch the whole series so that all of the information, all of the characters, and all their relationships can be fresh in my memory. And I think I'll do that when this season ends. I might rewatch everything because I just love it so much. And I hope I would love it so much if when everything wraps up, we get both season 4 and season 5 available on Blu-ray, because I have the first 2 seasons and those are the only 3 available. I would love to be able to have the whole thing physically, because it's a fantastic show. That's Golden Kamuy. Then, like I was saying, Fire Force season 3, part 2, which I think is this the final season? I feel like I've heard it is from people, but I can't remember. The pacing of it just feels weird to me. I feel like this is going to be the final season and it's just going to kind of end. I don't get the same build up that I get from Golden Kamuy. It just is giving me the sensation that, okay, things are happening and shit's just gonna end. I also wish the show looked a little better. It's not bad. It's not It's nowhere near Blue Lock season 2 or anything like that. It's a very solid looking season, but obviously it's not up to par with the first 2 seasons. And when I followed it up with Sentenced to Be a Hero, it's just like, I wish this looked a bit better. But in this most recent episode, we had a big fight between Charon, the big black dude from the White Clads, who is incredibly powerful, as well as it's him fighting Ogun, one of Shinra's buddies from school, the guy who's fucking hoverboards all around, and they're going back and forth. He's not able to do any kind of damage to Charon, but they show that it's not just this one-on-one battle, but everyone from the 8th, Company 8, their whole thing is working together. So they're all using their powers and working together, and then the one dude who shoots his gun and does his thing, he gets a hit on Charon and does a bit of damage to like the side of his abdomen. So we'll see where that goes in the following episode. But it's just, there's something about the pacing of this season that feels a little off with me. Decent episode, but I don't know. I feel like I should be leaving each episode the way I, for instance, left the final season of My Hero. Even if this isn't the final season, I still feel like I should be getting hyped and excited with each episode's end for the next, and I'm not really feeling that way. Then, since I just mentioned it, Sentenced to Be a Hero continues with that dour. I still, my biggest Achilles heel with the show is Terita. I don't like her. She is basically that kind of obsessive, possessive little sister character in rom-com anime, where you have the older brother who is clearly more being pushed towards a fellow classmate romantically. But then you have the sister who's very possessive and very just a lot, just very extra, too clingy, too problematic. And that's how I feel. It's like, oh, will you pat my head? Will you pat my head? When you have Xylo talking to Kibiya, she's getting very jealous. Like, it's just, I can't stand her right now. She just bugs the shit out of me. And I know, based on what little I've seen, she seems to be the favorite character of a lot of people, but she bugs me. But we get a bit of backstory in this one for, who is it? Sav, where you find out that he was just kind of this, why he became a hero. And it definitely is feeling very much so like what I was saying, where I think this is going to be a case where eventually the way they look at heroes is the way we look at heroes, because of their actions it's going to change the way they define that word. But he was sentenced to be a hero because he was just this, not mindless, but he just killed anyone without any kind of remorse. And the way he did it was, for him, killing anyone takes it doesn't make him feel anything. So the way he would choose who he killed was the people who thought like, oh, this kind of would make me feel bad to kill them. And I think it's more of a, oh, these people have these reasons to live. So, I probably shouldn't kill this person because they're not too bad. So I'm going to kill them because, like, clearly a bad person, not a case of Xylo who was turned into a hero through some kind of conspiracy thing going on, being set up and all that jazz. But you see them trying to set up defenses for the attack, and the way the episode wraps up is that things aren't looking too good. But still enjoying the show. I just wish that fucking stupid God was not as stupid as she is, for me at least. Then you have two final ones. Frieren. I really enjoy the episode. You see them go on the date, and it's not going the best because clearly Fern could tell that the date didn't feel like Stark. Yeah, she liked where they went and what they were doing, but it didn't feel like him. And then he tells her, well, I went to Frieren to get her advice to find out where you want to go because I wanted to make this date special for you. I wanted to make this date enjoyable for you. I wanted you to have a good time. And he is clearly a dense character. We know that there's denseness amongst all the characters. But while they're going on that date, clearly he's not getting everything. But you find out after the date ends that he was actually very attentive and aware of her and paying attention to her, which is very sweet. He's like, did you like this date? And she's like, yeah, I liked it. And he's like, but you didn't smile once. And when he said it, I was like, oh, you paid attention. That's good for you. And that's when they start explaining, like, or he's saying what he's saying, she's saying what she's saying. And it's like, well, I asked her for all this stuff. And I thought that was a very sweet moment. Because these are two characters who, I mean, all of them they're still trying to learn everything. And as much as they've been together for a decent amount of time now, they still have their things about them that they're working on. And I love their relationship together. I also, with this episode, I think one thing a lot of people probably don't appreciate, though they should, is the subtle animations you get outside of action scenes. Because obviously, we all love action scenes where we get all this incredible animation. You think episode 4 of Jujutsu Kaisen this season, just a visual feast to watch. But what Frieren does, and other shows do this as well, but not, and plenty don't. One of the things that is so good about it is that when two characters are talking, like when Fern and Stark were talking to each other, it's not just static images of them and then their mouth flapping. The wind is blowing, so you see Fern's hair blowing back and forth in the wind. And that may not seem like a lot, but it adds so much to the scene. And it's that kind of stuff that is easy to disregard. It's just like, oh, whatever. The hair is moving back and forth. Big deal. But it really adds a lot to make what would otherwise be a very dull scene feel much more alive. And I think that's the kind of stuff that makes Frieren so special, is that they pay attention to all the details. And I just love that about it. But you also get a lot of quick action in this as well. They're going through some forest and like, oh, clearly you're not paying attention, Stark, because we're surrounded, and they just, like, in a few minutes, like, they take down maybe another dragon. There's like this ground human who comes out and like, what the fuck's going on? And everything's done in like a few minutes. And then they fight some big ogre, and that one gives them some struggle. Stark grabs onto it to hold it down while Fern is flying in the sky and then lets down this giant beam of magic light to destroy it, while then Fern puts Stark into a protective barrier so that he doesn't get killed by the beam. And when they're done with all their fighting and ready to move on, Stark is just laying against a tree and like, okay, we're ready to go. He's like, yeah, I know, but I can't move my legs. I was so scared. I was going to die when Frieren let down that beam of light. I'm like, oh my God, you're so pathetic. That's not what Frieren says. She would never say that. That's what Fern says. I love all of them because they have their distinct personalities and they work so well together. It's so amazing to me when an anime or any kind of anime show can make characters who aren't real, feel distinct, and make them feel like they have this like, for my money, like, these are real people who have their real personalities and are growing together, and I'm watching them grow, and I feel like I'm watching real people, even though clearly they're just animated characters. But it was a great episode. And then Jujutsu Kaisen, we mostly see, for the first half, is a fight between, oh my god, what was the name? I mean, Megumi, but then also, can I find her in this list? Well, Panda is also doing it. No, it's not her, I don't think. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Kiara. They're fighting on the top of, I think, the roof in the parking lot, because she's trying to warn, is it Hakari, right? Hakari, about Itadori and the fact that they're part of the school and all that. But they're fighting, and you find out that her cursed energy power is that it has something to do with this constellation, and she can mark things with cursed energy, not just inanimate objects. And the way she marks them can make them either become attracted to each other. So she marks Megumi and some of his cursed things, like the wolf and the bunnies, so that they become attracted to him. But you can also make things repel one another. And there's some kind of balance system in play and how that's all going on. But it's a really fun fight. The only thing about it is that they're constantly pausing the fight, the action, to explain more of how everything's working. Like you just see some crazy action happening. Like, oh, so I think what's happening here is that her power does this, and it's related to the constellation in this way, and that's why this is going on. Let me think more about it. Action time. Okay, I've thought more about it, and now I think here's some more details. It's just like fucking this back and forth of, here's some great action, some great animation, some funny moments. Okay, let's take a breather to now recollect your thoughts and how everything works. Okay, back to the action. And that's a good chunk of the episode. And then Hikari with Itadori show up on the roof, and Itadori's just like, okay, at this point, I'm just going to let him keep punching me. I'm going to keep getting back up until he's able to listen to me and what we need and all that. So that was a good episode. Excited for more, but I think I've talked enough. This episode's gone long enough, so I'm gonna just end it there and call it an episode and all that jazz. So that'll do it for this here episode of Animezingly Baka. Once again, I am Mark Kuznez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. No, wait. If you enjoy the stuff I do, yeah, patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to random drops here or there, as well as a private Discord channel and some fancy Discord roles. Or you can just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. And then, of course, the pxsausage.com for all the links to everywhere else and all that jazz. But that'll do it. So, as always, I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye, bye. It's go time, go daddy. It's go time, go daddy. It's go time.